Hi, my name's Tony O'Neill. I'm the author of Down and Out on Murder Mile, which is forthcoming from Harper Perennial in the fall of 2008. Before I started writing seriously, I was a musician, and I was in a number of bands. I played with Mark Almond, who used to be in a band Soft Cell. I did a couple of solo records with him, which was a very interesting. It was myself, Mark, and the guitar player used to be in this band Sieg Sputnik. You probably remember, if you remember the shower scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off at the beginning, that's who's playing in the background, and he had an enormous pompadour, and he kind of looked like Billy Idol. Billy Idol's grandfather, or Billy, I don't know, some kind of crazy cracked out Billy Idol character. He's a really good guy. And actually an interesting story about that was I actually did some gigs with Mark in Moscow, and at the time it was right after, because I think the 10th anniversary after the wall came down and the city was pretty much still controlled by the mafia, and they organized our shows. We were doing 2 nights in a theater in Moscow, and it was all going fantastically well until the head of the Moscow Mafia and his family all took us out to dinner and then to a nightclub. And throughout dinner, they were ordering pint glasses full of vodka, and I was drinking them. I didn't realize that nobody else in the crew was drinking them. They were all, I guess they felt a little bit cagey being around the mafia guys, so they were staying sober and I wasn't. And then they took us to some underground, literally underground nightclub that was under the ground called the Vortex, which was, I suppose, a mafia hangout, and we stayed there all night drinking. And at some point, everybody had left apart from myself, the tour manager, Mark Almond's manager's nephew, this terrified young kid who somehow ended up on tour with us, and the entire hierarchy of the mafia in Moscow, including one guy who was called Yuri, who was apparently the birthfist boxing champion of Moscow. And the bill arrived, and it was thousands of dollars, and they asked us to pay for it, and of course we had no money. And the tour manager put down a Diners Club card, which they laughed at. They were like, "We don't take Diners Club." And everything started to get a little bit sketchy. The tour manager leaned across the table a little too much, and when he did that, Yuri, the birthfist boxing champion, punched him in the face and broke his glasses. And suddenly everybody's getting very uptight now. But somehow we managed to calm it down a little bit. And they agreed to pay the bill. And it's all been forgotten about, and we're all going to leave with our lives, when our tour manager rather stupidly leans across the table and starts fighting with the little guy who was the head of the mafia. He was little. He kind of was like, we were calling him Napoleon. He was like this little angry guy with a big scar on his face. And he started saying, "Well, what are you going to do about my glasses? You know, your guy broke my glasses." And the mafia guy was pretending he didn't understand, and then the tour manager said, "Your guy broke my glasses when he punched me," and then he punched the head of the Moscow Mafia in the face. And at which point a lot of guns appeared at the table. Yuri grabbed my manager and pummeled his face and actually knocked his... I remember at one point my manager was on the floor looking for his gold tooth, which had been knocked out of his head. And we had to be... I got backhanded across the floor. The last thing I remember is looking up, and I was looking up at some Russian prostitute who was looking down at me, and I was just thinking, like, "Welcome to Moscow." And I was bleeding a lot, and the guy who owned the club actually snuck us into the back room and had to get us out of the window and into waiting taxis, and we had to leave Moscow that night because he didn't want us to get killed in his nightclub because he thought the authorities were closing down. Not long after that, I was asked to leave the band because somehow it got construed that this was my fault, because I was the drunkest person there, and it really wasn't. It really wasn't my fault. I'll take that to the grave. So that was one of the interesting things that happened to me on tour. But anyway, buy the book, and then you can find out all the rest of the sordid details. Thanks.